Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Welcome back to Tableau Snippet Analysis Academy YouTube channel. We are in our module number 7. For the first time, I'm about to go for a small challenge in Tableau. Actually, I have reiterated our entire dimension twice here. So what did I do is, I moved the data to one step forward and backward here. So the module number 7 in our earlier was a different chapter, and in the module 7 in the latest version is a different chapter altogether. Now I want to add the data set differently. This is the old version of doing it. Now I reiterated that and then I made it a little differently right now. So I just swap with the data set a bit here. I'm just moving the advanced modeling with the clusters and the cross joins tab logics in our data interpreter and Tableau prep class. So I'm going to create a small challenge right now in Tableau. So let's see how we're going to work on a Tableau and how we're going to use this data set better. In our data set, I'm going to use 2 different files for our workout, and then the challenge is going to be a different one altogether. Let's see how we're going to use it. I will go until the cluster in this video, and then we'll see how we're going to work on this data set better here. So let's go to the data set. So this is our first leg for our advanced Tableau calculation or advanced Tableau learning. We will see how we're going to work on this point. So I'm going to take the challenge number 1. I'm using 2 different files. Again, this is where our data set is going to become even more effective here, because for the first time, or I will say that Tableau do allow a cross join here. We would have talked about joins, but when I join normally, I used an Excel sheets in play. I never used an Excel and a CSV file or an Excel text file and so on and so forth. But this was not there before Tableau 9. We don't have cross join. We should have all the files in a similar format. But in Tableau 9 and afterwards, I think that Tableau have developed this data set beautifully. They can connect the data set by a cross tabbed data type. So if your data are coming from an Excel, CSV, SQL Server, there is a lot of other way of doing a cross join. Again, at the moment I have a simple logic here. So I am using this as my list here. So this is the challenge that we are about to see right. So the point is, if you are a data science or data scientist and you are actually supporting a company which runs a laundry services. They are not a very big company. They are a mid-range of company. They already have a decent amount of offices in US. They have around 140 locations already exist in US, and they're opening 10 new locations here. So our agenda is to say that we want to differentiate this by 2 different regions here, and then they want me to calculate. I am a data scientist for them, and they want me to calculate the average revenue per city and average markets, and then they want to find out what is the revenue that they are making when I invest a decent amount of marketing in a city. They want to find out average returns, or in short, we call it as average ROMI, revenue over marketing spend. I can call it as ROMS, and I'm calling it ROMI because revenue or return on marketing investment is what and to achieve in this list. Plus, I have one more challenge that comes into play. I have opened new locations here, and I do have the information on the revenue that they make from a new location. I would like to know in which other location that I can invest a little more time, where I can spend even more money to make more revenues here. So how do I find it? This is where our data set is going to become very, very interesting for us. Let's see how we're going to use it. This is our agenda today, and then we're going to see how we're going to use it. And this is the data that I'm going to start with. So the second part of the data I will use in our next video, not in this video, because this video doesn't want to give you that logic. But again, I will come back and why I'm using that and how I'm going to use a cross join in Tableau. We'll see all of them. So first data is this. Again, I have data which is really, really nice here. The agenda of this data is this. So I want to find out an average revenue and other components. So this is the data information that I have here. So I forget on this with 2 regions automatically, and they have multiple cities here. And then you have the expansion plan, which are the established location that I have, what are the new locations that I have, what is the money that I've spent, and what is the money that I'm making as a revenue here. These are the logic that we're going to see today. So let's go back to the data set here, and I'm bringing in an Excel file, so I'm going to just click this data set, and then I will go for our challenged. Yes, so I'll go back to my Tableau snippet, challenge 1, and then we'll pick up the first last. Maybe what I want to do for it, sorry for that. Let me export this data set, nail for it. Let's go and add data set here. I have 150 location here protein, so the total number of data set I have is 150 location. I have 7 different fields that comes to it. So first we're going to go down here, and then if you closely watch here, I have a hierarchical data that is already coming up here, and I have a marketing spend and revenue. Now I want to find out the average or return on marketing investments is called the ROI here. I want to create that. So based on that, I can work around with the data set better. So let's see how we're going to do that. So first, I'm going to create our calculated field. I'm going to give a right click here, go to create calculated field, and then I will part of this as average ROI. And then when I come down here, I'll say equals, or I'll just say revenue divided by my market. So when I do that, I'm going to give an apply and okay. So now that gives you a calculated field for me. My agenda is to start with the logic that I have here called how I can create a territorial via group here. This is what I'm going to do it. This is going to be a new logic for us altogether. So then I'm going to drag and drop the state and city here, because sometimes the city name might be duplicated multiple times. So I don't want to take a chance here. So I'm dragging and dropping the city and state here, which allows me to get the US map automatically. Sometimes the system doesn't read the US map properly, because as I told you in our previous video, when I drag and drop the state and the city, it showcases everything that belongs to India, because I'm creating this video from India. I'm going to just change the location of a country here called the states here. So, and then I'm going to just close this, and then I hit an OK. It's going to give you the list. And if you want to make this data set better, we can just convert this into a filter map here. Now I got my data set in a filter map, and I got the list here. So now I want to go for revenues first. So I'm going to bring all the revenues to the label. Then it's going to show each and every state revenue. Then I'm going to bring the marketing spend below that, and then I'm going to bring my average ROI for each list. Now the advantage or the agenda for me is not to create the data set by a state, but by the region here. So if I want to add a region here, so I do have a sales region here. So let me differentiate the region here by dragging and dropping the region to the colors. So that way it says which are the regions belong to region 1 and which are the regions are belong to region 2. Again, it's giving you the data set beautifully. Now I want to group the data set. So there are multiple ways of doing a grouping here. I'm going to use the simplest method because I know the colors. Yes, I'm going to change all the colors here. So I'm going to select all the colors. That's going to give me an orange here. And then once I do that, you can see that it's a small folder that comes into play. I'm going to use the pink here, which allows me to group the data set here. I'm going to group the data set by our dimension here. When I do that automatically, now I have a data set on the group front here. You can see the coloring has been changed right now. It says region, others, another comment. Let me just rename the data set here. I'll come back here. Let it the group. I'll call this and rename this as region 1. And then I'll call this as region 2. So when you apply an off here, that's going to tell you that region 1 and region beautifully. But again, if you still see that even though the data are connected, but I'm not getting the overall valuation of my data set. So it still shows me the data set as each and every state or region. So now I'm going to drag and drop the state and it's out of the equation. You can see Ola. I get all my data set combined together as one simple dimension here. But I'm not sure about which one is what. So I have a marketing spend, I have a revenue here, and I have the valuation that comes into play. Again, all my data sets are coming as summation here, and we convert everything as like average. So let me convert this into average, and convert this into an average. Again, I can do it in a much better way, but for a simpler point, I'm using all of them as the average. And if you want to mention the averages with a specific format here, so I'm going to bring the percentage into play, and then I'm going to make that our equation. So let me just keep them in the numbers here. This with the whole data set, and here you convert this into an average, and then I really know only the percentage data set here. So I don't want the split. Then I can, if you want to make the data set look better here, we can change the formats here by putting everything into multiple dimensions. So let me just bring the customers' numbers into 1000 case here. By that way, it will be easy to identify. And then I'm going to use the same logic again in our heavily also. We can when the customers' name in 1000. So now that this makes the life a little more easier, but I'm going to add a label to it because label will make our data set better. So I'm going to call this as revenue. And then I'm going to say marketing spread. I now read everything. I still marketing things. And then we call this, or I call this as, so now I'm going to apply an OK. That shows what are the components that I have here. So now the component works here. So now I can drag this neighboring to the center so that I can see the data right there. So now I got the average revenues for a region and average revenue and the returns of the revenues. Also, I can add one more dimension here. I want to add the regions also into play. So let me grab the data set with the system and back to our access here. Let me just bring back our region to the label and then go back to the labels here and bring the regions top. So as the region comes properly here, so I don't want to put them again in the data set. Now it says which region you belong to. The coloring will give you the logic, but again, if I have an annotation in here, that will make one in that set right out. Now I got the grouping, and as well as I did the data set better, and then the geographical role also played the data from the grouping. But what I want right now is I have all the information that I'm looking forward for, and I know that which region is doing the data set better. But what I want right now is I want to build one more dimension. I want to just highlight how many new data set that I have in our list. That's what I want to see here. So this is where our data set will really make the workout or the other dimensions better. That's where I'm going to give you an introduction on how a cluster can work and how that we use the data set data here. So now next logic that we're going to see is how I'm going to add a highlighter. Highlighter allows you to go to a specific data type here. So I'm going to go back to our data set. I'll call this as CH1. So now I know which region is performing really well based on its marketing spending. It's for the best marketing spending. Less marketing spending is happening in region 1. Revenue is also higher, and as well as the returns is also almost $1 higher than the region 2 when I compare to the region 1 is here. So let's see how I'm going to create the highlight in clusters. This is where our scatter plot will again play a major role again. So let's see how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to drag the revenue to the column and then the marketing spend to the row here, and I get the aggregated measure here. So if you want to go by region, then we can just drag the region alone and then get the data set here. Or if you want to go by the expansions style, then you can drag the expansion to details. So that's going to give you the breakup here. But again, the expansion gives you only 2 regions here. because new and the old, it won't give you all the cities or the list here. So if you want to make this better, then I can grab the store ID here. That way it's going to give you the complete list of data that I have in this list. So now I'm going to swap this data. So I'm going to use the swap option. So that's make a sense a little bit, because I want to keep the spending part and the revenue part differently. So I swap the data for X and Y axis to another dimension. Earlier I did it in another way. So now I got the list here. Now I can add a highlighter here. So when I want to add a highlighter, the highlighter allows you to get the data set work better. So now I want to highlight the data set here. So when I go for a highlighter will allow you to make the data set work beautifully. And this will describe which part of the data set or which of the data sets are old and which data sets are new. If you want to differentiate this again, I can add new expansion, old expansion by the colors here. So that's going to tell you which are all the new data set and which are all the old data set, and you can see automatically it adds our data beautifully. Now I know how many new data sets are available in my list, how many old data sets are available in our list in a simplest time possible. And you can literally differentiate the data set in a much more neater pattern. So let me just move the expansion component out. And for the first time, I want to find out the best part of the analytics component. I'm going to go back to the analytical tab. This is the first thing that we're using. I'm using a cluster data. So when I do the cluster here, automatically the system will tell you where our marketing spends are going well, where our marketing spend is not going well. So you can see that these are the places where I can invest again. And these are the places where I can differentiate the data set better. Now I come back to the data set. Let me just try to add one more dimension, the new expansion and old expansion. So the sizes here, and in the sizes makes the data set a little different. I cannot add another color here, so let me just try to add the colors for the new expansion, old expansion. Then the data set shows the older way of doing it, but my cluster is no longer effective here. So I need to keep the clusters, and then I want to differentiate the data set better. This is where our highlighter will be a very, very handy for us. So let me just keep the store ID out of the equation and make the aggregate ratio better. So when I do that, the cluster works for me automatically here. And then I drag and drop the data set to a DT part, and I'll just bring the data set to the colors again. So the color taken over by one dimension. So we need two dimensions here. I want to keep the data set on the cluster in one dimension, and I want to keep the data set on the highlighter point at the other dimension. So we can see how we're going to use the data better. We either keep the cluster here, so that's going to tell you which data sets are going well. And if I don't want the cluster here, I can add a new expression color to it, and you can see that in the cluster component, which tell you which are the data sets are very good here, and then which are data sets are not good. And if you want to create a referential band line here, you can use it by the table here. So that's going to give you the referential band line. So where our data set should be a minimum list here. Again, the average revenue will come into play. If you're using a box plotter here, probably you can create a quartile deviation of Q1 and Q3 acceptably here. So any income that I make above this line item will all be a worthy one. So then I try to expand the next part. So you can see that I'm not using a highlighter here at all, but still I can give you an analytical logic with the clusters and the referential line here, which allows me to tell you which part of the income is better. So anything that comes above this line item will all be a better point, and it comes below this line item, it's not a good sign. We are not going to spend on these two locations here, which is not going to give us the high returns that we are looking for, but these are the locations, potential location, which allows us to get what we. So this is how we will build our data set here, and then we saw the list. I will add the highlighter differently now because I got the information without using the highlighter yet. So let me add a highlighter also in our upcoming videos, and will allow you to prepare a data set for our data set, and then I'm going to use this data again for a cross data type joint, and then I'll show you how I use a modeling with clusters. This is the Vinod signing off from myself back Academy YouTube channel Tableau Snippet. As our module number 7 on challenge number 1 and other topics. This is the initial part of our advanced Tableau learning yet. So we will learn more about this in our next set of videos. With the one more video, we are signing out with the basic Tableau learning program documents. Hope you guys have learned a lot of things from this data set, and I really appreciate if you guys are watching this continuously, because it's going to make your life a very different one, and you will understand data analytics to the next level once you complete this 8 module from the starting week. Thank you so much. This is Vinod. Happy harvest.